I thought the first thing we would do is to go through everyone's background quickly, specifically tell us a little bit about yourself, your role at the company, and how long you've been involved with IANA. I'll start. My name is Mike Burton. I'm CEO of C&K Holdings, which is a holding company which consists of AV Logistics, a logistics company that turned 20 years. They had their 20-year anniversary today. And they are really a container management company / logistics company located down in Jacksonville, Florida, primarily doing international freight management. We also have a trucking company, which is C&K Trucking and Skyline, and they operate about 1,200 trucks. We're in about 18 different markets, primarily throughout the East and Midwest. We've been operating operating as a motor carrier for over 25 years. I personally have been involved in IANA since about 2008. And I have recently joined the board. I've been on a couple committees and recently joined the board of IANA. And so that's generally my background. We have a terrific group here, a lot of very experienced people, a lot more experienced than I am. When you go down through here, the list of how long you guys have been involved in both IANA, when I added it up, it was a combined 123 years for the group here, which is terrific. So what I'd like to do, in no particular order, but I'm going to do this like the fantasy football draft. When I ask the questions, we'll have an order which starts with Mr. Manning, then goes to Mr. Lotek, Mr. Hensel, Mr. Maher, Mazima, and then Mr. Graglia, and then reverse order with the questions coming back. So, Mr. Manning, if you would give us a little bit of your background.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Dave Manning, I'm president of TCW, based in Nashville, Tennessee, and we operate in the southeastern part of the United States, about 13 different terminals. Intermodal is the largest part of what we do, about 70% of our revenue. We also do some warehousing, some distribution, truckload, and do some logistics as well. We run about 600 drivers throughout those terminals, primarily a company fleet instead of independent contractor. We run some independent contractors, but there's only about 50 of them. The balance of our drivers are company drivers, and we found that has worked particularly well for us. I've been at TCW for a little over 35 years and was actually one of the founding members of IANA back in 1991 when all the associations came together to form IANA. So quite a while in the IANA area as well.
Fantastic. You've been past chairman as well of IANA?
Past chairman of IANA, that's correct. Past chairman of the American Trucking Associations, and on several different committees at IANA, operations committee and M&R committee over the years. And the IEC, never forget the IEC that's responsible for the language of the UIA, and that's been interesting.
Appreciate all your support over the years. Thank you. We'll switch to Mr. Kevin Lotek.
Thanks, Mike. Kevin Lotek. I'm the president of Reliable Transportation Specialists. We have been IANA members since 2000, started to about mid-90s support IANA and decided to become a member in 2000. We started our company in 1986. We currently run 7 different operational areas. We run about 175 units, mostly in the Midwest and Southeast, utilizing ports and rails, obviously. Probably 95% of our revenue comes from intermodal. I am the current chairman of IANA. I've served on different committees throughout the years, task force, working groups. Obviously, being chairman, I'm a current board member. I've been on the board. This will be my 9th year in total. And we have been sponsors and exhibitors of IANA, as well as Dave mentioned, where I'm currently serving on the IIEC as a voting member for the motor carriers.
Very appreciative, very involved, and I know you've been involved in a number of other industries as well at the board level too. Appreciate all your efforts. Mr. Hensel, could you give us your background?
Sure, Mike. I'm Dave Hensel, the president and CEO of Eagle Systems. Our company was one of the founding members of the organization. I've been with Eagle for 10 years, so I've been quite active in IANA with my time here at Eagle. I'm a former vice chair of the operations committee. I was also a task force leader for a number of years on a fairly significant project that we were happy to accomplish. and I'm currently a member of the IIEC as a alternate motor carrier member. Our organization, we are 97%, 98% intermodal drayage. We do some trailer work. We're predominantly independent contractors. We do have a few company drivers in one location. You know, we service 22 locations, predominantly the East Coast and down the Midwest and Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for the background. I know you've been involved as well. All right, great. Karen Zima, could you give us your background?
Hello, everybody. This is Karen Zima, and I'm with Road One Intermodal Logistics. I've been working with Road One and our related predecessor companies since 2007. That was the first year, actually, I attended IANA in Atlanta. And so I had transitioned in my transportation career from truckload and over the road with the automotive industry to the intermodal world. Little did I know what I was getting myself into way back in 2007. But working for Road One, I started out on the commercial side, and 7 years ago, I switched over to the operating side, and I'm now vice president of our field operations of our West Coast operations. Road One has been a member since 2000, and actually predecessor companies before 2000. And we service intermodal rail ramps and ports all over the United States. We have over 2,000 trucks. We do intermodal ground transportation services, as well as transloading, and we have a large brokerage operation as well. We're involved in a lot of the intermodal related services. Myself personally, involvement with IANA has been to initially on the commercial side, set up our trade show booth and to participate in each year's IANA events. To make sure that we have a strong presence there and to participate in all of the activities involved with the annual IANA event. So I'm very disappointed that we had to miss this year's event. Would have just been in a couple of weeks. So thank you for allowing me to participate today.
Great to have you on the panel. Thank you. Patrick Maher, can you give us your background?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So my name is Patrick Mayer. I'm Executive Vice President at Gulf Winds, and really, our company is primarily intermodal drayage. All of our services really spawn out after the intermodal drayage piece. We've got locations primarily here in Texas, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then we ventured on over into Memphis and Mobile, Alabama in the last couple of years. We run right at about 500 trucks, primarily owner-operators. We do a mix of company trucks here and there as well. And so our services are going to spawn right there off of the drayage piece into container management, chassis solutions, into our warehousing footprint at the Port of Houston. We've got right at about 2 million square feet at the Port of Houston. So I've been at Gulf Winds 13 years, held a variety of roles with our company. And prior to that, I cut my teeth in our business with night transportation on the truckload side prior to that. So as far as IANA goes, Gulf Winds has been a member right at about, I believe, 2005, so about 15 years. We're going to celebrate our 25th year next year, and I've been personally involved for about the last 5 years, and primarily from a sponsorship standpoint and from an expo standpoint, really enjoy the networking and just really looking to see how we can get more involved and help support. So thanks for having me.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to have you on the panel as well. Thank you. All right, last but not least, Mr. Nate Graglia.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Nate Graglia. I'm Executive Vice President of Walport Transit Express. Walport Transit Express is a family-owned company owned by my family, which we started in Houston back in 2007. We run 100% owner-operator fleet and have a couple of divisions within our group that incorporate everything from the drayage piece to out-of-gauge cargo to warehousing distribution and a full-blown property brokerage division as well. So currently our MC, we're running little under 100 trucks, and we primarily operate in Texas, the contiguous states of Texas. So we have terminals located in Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth as well. We've been a member of IANA since the end of 2019, so IANA is still pretty new to us. I personally have been heavy involved with our local state associations, being in the Emerging Leaders Council for the Texas Trucking Association, and also being the DFW chapter chairman. and ATA, or liaison to ATA, which is where I currently sit at the ATA Lead Program, which has introduced me to some very wonderful people, such as Mr. Manning, who's on this call. And I just a couple days ago met Kevin as well, who's helping me with a local issue that we're having down here in the Gulf. So that IANA, being a member of IANA, was an easy fit, especially since it really incorporates that intermodal piece that seems to be lacking in some of the other associations.
Great to have someone that's relatively new so we can get some fresh thoughts and ideas. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We got a great group of panelists, lots of experience, a lot of years being involved. You know, we pretty much cover the West Coast to the East Coast, including the Midwest. And so I think we have a pretty good broad group to kind of get your ideas and thoughts from. One of the key questions that we wanted to answer today is really, why is your company a member of IANA? Is there a value proposition that you guys could maybe explain a little bit along with answering that question? Mr. Manning, if you could give us your thoughts on that, that would be great.
Sure, Mike, be glad to. I mean, the value proposition for TCW is that it's the only association that brings all the different modes together in one place and one time. And I think that what we've learned is that by having all the modes there, you learn different perspectives. Intermodal tends to be such a siloed business, and everybody only thinks about their problems and their issues, and they try to make rules to solve their particular problem, but sometimes it hurts the intermodal product. And I think that what IANA enables us to do is to sit around a table and listen to each other and understand what the challenges are. But if we'll take off our mode hats and put on our association hat or intermodal hat, we can look at solutions to issues that we all face that are win-win instead of win-lose type situations. So that's the value that TCW finds, is that it's getting those perspectives from the different modes that we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to understand at the depth that we get to within the IANA structure.
Thank you. Kevin, can you give us your thoughts as well?
I could say ditto to Dave Manning and make it easy, but Dave's right. I mean, it allows us a seat at the table. You know, I always tell people as chairman for the last 2 years, look, you're going to get out of IANA what you're going to put into IANA. Engage. I use the term engage when we all could meet together, and I did speeches. I use the term engage a lot. It allows us at the seat of the table to be part of the solution and to have our voice heard. So many times, as Dave stated, we're worried about what is affecting us. The networking abilities then allow us to hear other motor carriers' issues and be able to collaborate. I think the value proposition is networking. If I could pick one word for the value proposition, it's networking. Finding solutions that we all face on a daily basis, having the ability to be able to speak with a chassis supplier, a railroad, a steamship line, a 3PL, a supplier, all at the same table, having the same problem, collaboration at its finest. And I think there's hurdles to overcome. But again, networking is the best value proposition regarding IANA.
Good comment, collaboration. All right, David.
Yeah, I'm going to have very similar statements to Dave and Kevin. They're good, but for Eagle, it is about the networking and engagement. You have to get involved. To get the organization brings all the stakeholders together that you want to get to know and meet throughout our industry. It's a relatively small industry within intermodal. We all get to know each other, and it comes up with the ability for us to discuss our problems, come up with solutions, and do it across all the industry stakeholders to actually get something done. But for Eagle, I would agree with Kevin. I think the biggest thing is from a networking standpoint, allows you all the opportunities for a motor carrier to get to know the key leaders at a railroad, the equipment providers, steamship lines, the maintenance vendors that come. You get to meet the key decision makers with the industry. And if you have a problem or have an issue or you're trying to get something resolved, you kind of know where to go, who to call, and it really helps get things done, not only for our organization, but for the industry. And the more a company can get involved, the better it is, and the more you'll get out of IANA.
Great, fantastic. I know as we get to the end of the panelists with the questions, some of them have been answered already, but if you guys can add any additional feedback, that would be great. We'll go to Patrick now. Patrick, if you could give reason why your company is a member of IANA.
Yeah, I think the value proposition for Gulf Winds when we think about it is really the word interconnected. And that's by definition what intermodal is. We're all connected. And so maybe that's a different way of saying networking, but really the ability to bring all the key stakeholders together has a lot of value, to be able to kick things around and to know that there's a guiding force out there within our industry that's representing our industry. The word intermodal can get tossed around a lot, or drayage can get tossed around a lot, but knowing that IANA stands for the safety, for efficiency, for creating sustainable processes within our industry, and then knowing where everybody can go to at the end of the day and collectively try to come up with answers on things is very, very important. So, to us, that would be the value proposition. Obviously, there's other trade organizations that do similar things, but probably not so much directly on a national level for intermodal specifically.
Thanks for your insight. Karen?
So for Road One, I would think that with the value proposition, my background more on the marketing, public relations side, IANA as a bigger picture pulls together all the stakeholders in order for all of us to come together. And I think the big event of Expo every year is a real culmination of what IANA represents, and that's stakeholders networking and engaging together to find solutions for relevant topics that we're dealing with today. And all year long, IANA is the engine behind the scenes that's just continuing to facilitate the education and the networking and the various events and many of the online events that we have now. So that can still keep us engaged in current topics and current challenges that we have as an industry. But so important is that the networking, especially at the Expo every year with all of our stakeholders in the industry, our competitors, providers of service in other fields and modes of transportation, but most importantly, our customers and those decision makers that are walking through the Expo halls, that are sitting in the meeting environments and asking the questions and looking for the services. That gives our company a big opportunity to really develop new relationships, to have meetings with existing customers, and just continue to grow our company and the visibility of our company. So the promotion and the visibility of our company is a huge value proposition for us, but it's supported foundationally by the IANA organization all year long with many of the events that are going on. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Nate.
Well, I'd say, there's power in numbers. With IANA, you're not standing alone. The organization acts as a fiduciary for its members. So we have a particular issue that we need to make some noise on. Individual members don't have to, fear any type of retaliation. It's great to find like-minded organizations and people to help develop policies that help drive the changes and solutions that are needed within our industry. For me, it's really about the ability to learn from others that have been there and have done it, that will take the time to walk you through it and tell you why it worked or why it didn't work and what direction we can really take those particular issues through.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's good perspective. What I hear is networking, education, collaboration, all the stakeholders from the various industries being able to work together. A number of good reasons why to join IANA. The intermodal industry has been fortunate to grow. Over the last year and a half or 2 years, we struggled a bit with the growth and actually came down a little bit. And, and truckload continued to grow. And from my perspective, having all the stakeholders being able to get together to figure out how we can become more competitive against the truckload marketplace is a key factor for the importance of IANA. Now more than ever, with autonomous trucking down in the future, and a number of different enhancements that the trucking industry is going through, it's what can we do? What can we continue? How can we continue to improve as a group? And IANA really gives us that platform to work together to do that. So that would be my perspective, but it's really taken all the things that you guys said. The second issue for me is learning. The majority of you guys have grown up through the industry. I was a banker for 17 years beforehand. And so I'm relatively new to the industry. And, for me, it's the idea to learn and find out about, all the new things and, have a chance to talk to you guys to hear the history of it is really, it's terrific. So not only from a networking standpoint, but I get to absorb and learn from people who've lived and breathed it, and it's been their life for a number of years. So that's the value proposition for C&K and why we're trying to get so many of our management team involved in IANA. Nate, we're going to start with you with the second question, which is, why do we need all the stakeholders to engage? How does your company engage? It would be a second part of the question. So if you could give us your thoughts on that, that would be great.
Well, if you're not engaged, you're not you don't have a voice at the table, right? So for me, I try to get involved with as many of the committees as I can. I believe with IANA, even still being new, I'm involved with the safety committee, the maintenance and repair committee, and the operations committee as well. And I hear a lot of different perspectives every single time I attend one of those calls. Have it be a carrier that's more geared towards international transportation, or have it somebody that's geared more towards domestic transportation. So lots of different viewpoints, lots of different moving pieces that all seem to come together all at once.
All right, fantastic. Karen, if you could give us your thoughts on that, on question 2.
Sure, no problem. So I'm a problem solver, and one of the critical reasons to get involved is to solve problems. When you have such a massive list and group of industry experienced experts and leaders together to solve a problem, that is the best opportunity and why to get engaged with IANA. Because you have people that have walked in those down those streets before, that have that experience, that can help with answering those questions. And if we run into something new in the industry that we haven't experienced before, we have all of those people to pool together to come up with some of the solutions to that problem. So solving some of our critical industry challenges and problems are extremely important. And I think IANA does that exceptionally well through all of the committees, with the interchange committee, the safety committee, maintenance and repair, operations, chassis, and then you just roll that all into the education and the networking. And the national event, the expo, I think is how we really get involved and engaged as a company. And myself personally, having that ability to be in front of customers, be alongside our industry leaders, to be sitting in the sessions learning, that engagement just at the national level during the expo really reinforces the reason to get involved in all the IANA events and activities and committees throughout the year. I just recently signed up for the Future Leaders Mentor Program. So if Jim will have me, I'll be happy to have a few kind words of wisdom from someone that's walked a lot of miles in high heels in this industry and still is in it today. So that's how we get engaged, and that's how I get engaged.
Okay, fantastic. Patrick, if you could give us your perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think there's a number of different ways. I think each company will go through different seasons. We might have different people involved at different levels, but it's always been important to us to financially support through sponsorships, also through the expo, and then also being sure that we're marketing IANA and using our marketing platform to try to engage other trucking companies to be involved as well. So I would encourage those that are out there that maybe don't have time to be on a committee or haven't found their place yet, that there's a number of ways to get involved, because then by getting involved in different ways, you're able to support those people who are looking to make change there on the committee. So I would even venture to say it's not just about the committees. There's other ways that we can all challenge ourselves probably to do a little bit more.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. David, your thoughts?
Yeah, we engage. I spend most of our time is in the operation committee meetings at both the maintenance, the business meeting in May, and then again the expo, along with all the committee meetings that go on between those and the conference calls. And I think it's important, someone had made a comment earlier, you get out of it what you put in, you have to participate. We need all the stakeholders to engage. Not everyone knows everyone's problems. And we need that engagement from everyone. And so we spend a lot of time in it, do as much as we can. I think one other note I'd like to bring up, maybe different, this is a tough year with obviously everything that's going on and all the meetings and committee meetings. We can't meet face to face. I think IANA's done a very good job with keeping the webinars and keeping the information flowing throughout. And I would ask everyone, it's important to participate in those meetings, and even just listening to the information that they put out has been very helpful.
Great, appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Lotek, Kevin.
I just have always pushed, this is near and dear to my heart. I've always pushed others to be engaged. We utilize 3 or 4 people from our operations department to get engaged in different task forces. You have the solutions and they get the contacts. I think it talking over a phone, talking via Zoom meeting, or even just emailing is a different aspect than a face-to-face. And I think it allows everybody, I'll say it again, allows everybody to come up with maybe a common industry practice when you're engaged and you're trying to find a solution. The bottom line is we're all looking for efficiency, right? I mean, that's what we're looking for when we have a problem and we need a solution. Most of the time it's affecting our efficiency, whether it's the lack of a chassis, driver's time, whatever it is, we're looking to bring those people together. And I think it was either Patrick or Nate, somebody said there's power in numbers. As reliable transportation, a customer or railroad might not listen to my individual problem, but as an association, as people are engaged, the more that are engaged are having the same problem, there's more likelihood that that's going to be at least attended to, fixed, looked at, and solutions made. So we are engaged. We're going to continue to be engaged as much as we possibly can.
Fantastic. All right, appreciate it. Mr. Manning.
Sure. I think IANA creates a great place, a great platform for being able to work together to address the issues that face our industry. But that only works if people will get engaged and give of their time and share their experience and be willing to debate the topics and understand the topics and be willing to work together for better solutions. You can't get there if you don't engage. TCW has always been the company that only wants to be involved in the associations that we can be engaged in. We don't like to just be members of an association. We want to actually be active participants in that. And so whether it's the different committees or wherever we can serve, we've always seen that as important. And I think it's important also that we have decision makers within companies to engage. It's really hard to come up with a good practice if you don't have people that are involved in that are willing to implement it within their own companies. And I think IANA struggles sometimes with that. And we could use a lot more engagement from decision makers within the companies of each of our members.
All right, terrific. I think we answered a lot of 2 questions in that last question. We answered, why do we need stakeholders to engage? And then we really talked about, why is it important to be active on committees? A lot of you guys talked about to be involved and to be engaged is key for everyone to learn and really to make, allow for change. It became relatively clear, that you guys came across that, having all the stakeholders at one place working together to improve our industry and really having the place through IANA to do that is key for all the stakeholders and why they should be engaged. I'm going to jump to question 4, which is really a matter of resources. And probably right now, I know all of us are very challenged with the wave of freight that we see going through all the markets that we operate in. And we've probably never been busier. And resources are relatively tight, mainly time resources. Not everyone has the time to be able to either travel or have the time itself to be on a committee. And so one of the questions we want to know from you guys is, how else can a member company become involved more even if they aren't able to have the time or resources to be on a committee or feel comfortable yet being on a committee. And I'll start back at the top with Dave Manning.
I think committees are extremely important, but obviously not everybody can be on a committee. And so there are other ways to be involved. I think back when we could meet together, there always were 2 meetings a year that you had the opportunity to, when I think about networking, it's like a contact list, but it's more than that, right? It's really getting to know that person and them knowing you. And so then when there's a problem that comes up that you need to address, the person that you're talking to try to resolve that problem. Makes all the difference in the world in being able to get somebody to be sympathetic to the situation that you're faced with. And so I think that there's just opportunities to network at those face-to-face meetings that we have twice a year.
Terrific. Yeah. And really you get the chance to talk to each other, and you may find someone who's on a committee that, you can at least relay your thoughts or they then can pass it along to the committee as well. And even if you can't necessarily go to IANA, you can do that through obviously some form of communication to let people know and be heard. So that's great. Kevin, anything to add?
I'd say, obviously this is more important now than ever. Attend the webinars. I know it's a small time out of your day. Attend the webinars, listen to the content that's being presented. The education alone is worth the value. But I will tell you this, being involved and deep as I am in IANA, we have a terrific staff. Joni and the staff are terrific. If you have an issue, that staff member, whether it's Hal or Jim or Steve or Joni or Jan, they will listen and they will bring it up to the motor carriers in the IIEC. We have people that bring up issues in the IIEC all the time. Dave and I may have never heard of that motor carrier or that they were ever attended. I may have never met somebody from that company, but I will tell you, they follow through. You can have 1 truck or you can have 2,000, and that is going to be brought to your division to discuss what type of issues need to be done. So, if you don't have time, at least, the other thing, give ideas for webinars and different things that you'd like to see. The staff is very welcoming, and we're always looking for new ideas, what may just take us to that next level.
Oh, that's great. No, I appreciate it. Dave Hensel, I know you've been very involved in a lot of committees, and so you find the time, but I know you're being pushed as president.
Yeah, I've had to back out of some recently. So you gotta, from my standpoint, kind of pick and choose where I can use my time wisely and efficiently and help the organization and still be engaged and involved in. I would just add that, for anyone, there's plenty of opportunities to speak up. IANA does a good job of sending out a survey or an email on topics or issues that the association, that they want to hear from, and, answer those surveys. Don't be bashful. Reach out to as Kevin said, to the IANA staff, and, you'll have an opportunity to get heard through that.
All right, fantastic. Patrick, any thoughts to add?
Yeah, just one thing to add would be back on the education piece. I think Kevin mentioned it, but utilizing that content internally, I think, is key, because we're able to introduce maybe a future committee member or somebody down the line that may benefit from IANA. And so, how do we get that content and that training and all the things that are brought to us by being members, then how do we get that down into the organization and utilize that? I think that can be done from an education standpoint. And so it's a little bit about maybe preparing the next generation, but that's something that we could probably all do a little bit better job of.
All right, terrific. No, good thought there. Karen?
So I couldn't agree more with what was just said, because as a leader in our company, I'm constantly thinking about the leaders that are coming behind me and how can we better bring those leaders up with better information and engage them more in what's happening in our industry. And IANA has so many resources on the website that people that aren't currently members can take advantage of, but then the resources that are available to current members, like the webinars, and having the ability to listen to the webinars. Perhaps you weren't able to join the webinar at the original time, but you could listen to it at a later time. Just the education alone on so many of the webinars during COVID-19 that have been offered have been invaluable. So I think most importantly, when bringing people up in our industry, exposing them to IANA, what IANA is all about, the resources that IANA presents. I also serve on the board of a number of different organizations. I'm the sitting president of the Washington Intermodal Association Conference, and also serving on the board of the Seattle Transportation Club. So promoting IANA and the resource of IANA to people that are involved and engaged in the logistics and transportation industry is critically important to furthering the knowledge of the fact that IANA is there as a tremendous resource. And that can only get more people engaged in joining IANA and joining the committees and participating at whatever level they feel they can contribute.
Thank you. Last but not least, Nate, on this question, I know you're very busy now, especially in the Texas marketplace, and you're involved in a lot of other areas. So how would you advise someone to, if they really can't get on a committee, to get more involved?
You know, Kevin and Dave both kind of hit the nail on the head. Obviously, Kevin with his webinars, but you know, he also talked about the IANA staff. So I'll give you a good example. So probably about 4 weeks ago here in the DFW market, it was brought to my attention that there were a couple companies that might have been in violation of the equipment interchange section 2B, to where there are potential liability concerns for the motor carriers. So I reached out to Jim, and Jim put me in touch with our good friend Debbie over at UIIA, and we provided her with some information and kind of explained to her what we were seeing. And within 3 weeks, it was all solved. You know, for all you guys have been doing this a long time, and for something to get solved in 3 weeks is pretty much impossible. But she was definitely able to do it. You know, and then to touch on what Dave mentioned about the networking, you know, I met Dave Manning over at ATA, but I'm having a particular issue with trying to connect API with one of the railroads, and I didn't know really who to reach out to. So Dave put me in touch with Mr. Kevin, and Kevin right now has been so kind to start putting his feelers out. So it's, you know, it's a whole nother angle, a whole nother world that's really just been opened up to us with resources that really is just going to help drive our industry forward even more.
Good to have some recent examples as well to kind of hit home on the point. So that's terrific. Thank you. One of the things that we would like to answer the question of is how important is networking with other members to your company? Karen?
It's extremely important to have opportunities, and again, especially at the National Expo venue, to network with other industry leaders. I mean, what an incredible collection of very high-level, experienced intermodal leaders to come together so that you can talk about what's going on in our industry, talk about future things that are coming to our industry, you know, work out the problems and the challenges of what's impacting our industry. So it's extremely important to have the power behind the IANA membership when you are in the intermodal industry to solve the problems that are impacting our efficiencies and business day-to-day operations. So critically important to do that with members. And what a better place to do than at the expo. But if you need a resource and you need a contact, you can go to the membership and look at the various industry members that are part of IANA. I can't tell you how many times I have gone back and looked at all the business cards that I keep right behind my desk. When a question comes up throughout the year, who can I call? Oh, my IANA business cards. And I whip through the business cards, the membership directory, and I always find a person that at least can answer my question or direct me in a good direction to get an answer. Invaluable resource list.
Nate, thank you.
You know, as far as the networking for me, to be able to have the resources, to be able to tap the individuals that have essentially been responsible for shaping our industry, over the past 3 decades is so valuable, and to be able to learn from their leadership and their points of views, their successes and their failures is quite something.
Thank you. Patrick.
Yeah, Mike, the only thing I would add, I think another perspective would be that it's creating a united front within the industry. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of times our companies can operate, if we're not careful, in individual silos, and we're going to get separated that way. And so it's really nice to be able to come back and work with IANA on those issues. And I would even say, even at the state level, and I'll just use Nate as an example. We work closely with Nate and his company through TXTA here in Texas, and I'm sure you guys do the same thing in your various parts of the country as well, and that's extremely important. And so, look, we like to use the word friendly competitors, right? We're all in business, we're all competing, but at the end of the day, there's got to be a united front within the industry if we're going to solve, some of the things that affect all of us.
That's great. I would agree with it. And really, when I started going to IANA and really seeing some competitors and sitting with and people being willing to talk about it and offer advice and help each other was just tremendous. It was great to see in the industry. David Hensel, anything to add to that?
I only one thing to add, maybe as an example, because I think it's important. We all understand we're competitors, but I think getting together, we discuss solutions or things that we're working on together. And it really, on the safety side, I've gotten a lot out of the networking as we talk about best practices on the safety side. And we've kind of adapted some programs that maybe our competitors are doing, and we talk about it. And it's really helped out our company. I've gotten some good safety ideas and programs from other members.
Well, that's terrific. Yeah, you can't understate the importance of safety, especially in our industry and all transportation. Kevin, anything to add on that?
I guess this kind of makes me one of the old guys on this call, but I've been in it since the early 80s. And I want to tell you a little bit about Patrick hit it. We're siloed. We were segregated. We were secretive. It was unheard of in the 80s for you to pick up the phone unless your buddy owned another trucking company. You didn't talk to other trucking companies. You didn't collaborate. You didn't do anything to try. You were concentrated on your problems only, and you had no voice in the industry. That is just totally turned around right now. And, I heard the term friendly competitors. I've been using that term for probably since the early 90s, mid 90s, when it still wasn't really cool to have a friendly competitor, by the way. And I think it allows us to just solve problems. Dave Hensel nailed it. I didn't think about that until he mentioned it. Best practices, some of the things, whether it's insurance, it's safety, it's things like that. Absolutely, hands down, number one reason myself and my company are joined and engaged is for the networking. There's a lot of issues, a lot of things that we're members for, but networking is on the top of my list.
Oh, that's great. All right, great. Yeah, you summarized it. Thank you. Mr. Manning, anything to add? I know we got a lot of good perspectives.
Sure. I mean, I think one thing that we all enjoy about intermodal is that you learn something new every day. And I think that being able to network with other motor carriers, you can learn some things that they have done through trial and error that you don't have to repeat that same thing. Also think that as motor carriers, we all know that we tend to be at the bottom of the food chain, and that it's only through the support of other motor carriers that are fighting the same issues that you're fighting that we have a chance to do something about changing it, to the point that I would say some of the best friends that I have, period, are friends in the trucking industry that we've gone through these battles together with and will be friends for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's great. Way to summarize it. That's terrific. We're starting to wrap up. We've got 2 more questions. I think one, we've hit on this a little bit, but we want to get into education a little bit because IANA offers a tremendous amount of education, whether it be webinars, resources on the internet, data that they pull together, or just communication, through the staff and support through the staff. So, and we'll start with Mr. Manning again. How does IANA's diverse education program assist your company?
So I think education helps. There are just so many experts at different topics that are willing to share their time and their experiences. And IANA is able to tap into that to put together through some really productive educational programs. And so it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn about the diversity of our industry. It's also a great way to learn about things that you might be able to take and improve your own company.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. We'll switch to Kevin, if you could give us your thoughts as well on the education side of IANA.
You know, IANA's educational sessions, you know, I think Karen mentioned it. You take somebody that you're just training, that just gets out of school, that doesn't maybe have a transportation background, Intermodal 101. It's the basics. Something that the people on this panel might take for granted right now, right? But we all started somewhere. And there are so many moving parts to this industry, trying to learn everything and trying to be able to have the time as myself or anybody else as a panelist on here to try to mentor somebody. Time is of essence, and that just helps us take that person to the next level, gives them the basics, and then our company, our personnel, our training people can fine-tune that person. And it answers a lot of questions that people have, especially coming into this industry.
Terrific. All right. Thank you. David Hensel?
Not too much more to add at that, but we use the webinars to push out to people within our organization if they have time to listen to it. I think they gain a lot of knowledge of it. For myself, I think this year in particular, since we've kind of moved, can't have the in-face meetings and the education sessions that Expo has. The update by Larry Gross, I think it was every month, or intermodal data. It's a good perspective on industry data and keeping up with the industry. They really help with that. So I get something out of that as well.
Fantastic. Nate, do you want to add anything on the education side?
Sure. The amount of resources that's available to membership is quite extensive. The webinars itself, I actually make it a requirement to where whenever one's available, there's always a staff member, if not multiples, that are attending those webinars as well. And as far as training material, I use all of it, absolutely all of it. There's the chassis repair manual, if you will, or the practices that are kind of industry standard. I give those to our drivers, and to really help with their PMs and so forth, and pre-trip inspections.
Oh, that's great. All right, thanks. And last but not least, Karen, on the education side.
Sure. I think it's one of the best kept secret is transportation in the intermodal segment of our industry. And I think IANA brings an incredible list of resources to educate those young people or people that perhaps are considering another opportunity for business, and just to dive into the resources that Nate was just mentioning, talking about the best practices, talking about the inspection and repair of chassis, all of the information that IANA has with the tools and resources, and just the basics of what is intermodal can really introduce people that might be good problem solvers and might be adapt to our type of business to get involved in our industry. So education plays a key part with IANA in developing future leaders and bringing people into our industry that might not have realized about the career opportunity that exists in intermodal.
Right. I would agree. I mean, there's a host of resources out there, and really just to summarize, it's for our staff, our drivers, our employees to, have a place to get additional education that we can either share with them or they can find on their own is terrific. And then really from our perspective, because it does pull in a lot of data, a lot of broad data, it helps us make better decisions, whether it's adding staff, we see the trends and we see that what's going on and the information that that IANA is providing to us, because they do pull together a tremendous amount of information in various markets. It really helps us cement and make better decisions, which is the key with the education. So last question, where do we think the intermodal industry is headed, and how can your company's involvement in IANA help us get there? We're going to start with Nate.
Intermodal is most definitely going to continue to grow, and as it grows, we're going to continue to have our unique challenges that sometimes can be very specific to intermodal. So the industry's got a commitment from Wallport that whatever associations we're involved in, that we will be engaged and that we will participate, and membership can count on us.
All right, fantastic. All right, Karen.
Our industry really is headed at a lightning pace into the future, and we have so many new responsibilities that are being placed on the intermodal carriers. So we need to be in search of more efficient ways and methods to improve our day-to-day operations. And at the same time, recognize what's happening to us globally and the impact of sustainability practices. So we have a lot at hand, and we need to learn how to do it quicker and faster and more efficiently.
Fantastic. I'm glad you hit on sustainability there, because it's such a key advantage that the intermodal industry has over some of our other transportation modes. So thanks for bringing that up. David Hensel.
The intermodal industry is, I think it'll continue to grow. I think, one of the things we have to deal with is technology is advancing at such rapid pace, and every company is trying to become more efficient, extremely efficient. And I think we all need to work together to get that done across the modes and individually as our own organization. And, I think the only way you have to continue your involvement. Eagle always be involved in IANA, and you have to be sitting at the table to get it done.
Appreciate it. Good to hear that as well. It's great to start to end the questions with the past chair and the current chairman. So we'll start with Mr. Manning, and I always say Mr. Manning because we have two Davids. So I'll say Mr. David Manning, if that's all right.
Sure, be glad to. I think, if you just look over the last 20 years, how much intermodal has changed. The one thing that's for sure is it's going to continue to change. And I think IANA gives us a great opportunity to come together and learn from each other so that we can make sure that intermodal stays on the cutting edge of where it fits into the transportation network. I think at IANA, we got a great chance to work together to improve the intermodal product if we'll all just show up and work together and collaborate and take our hats off, company hats off, and put our intermodal hats on and work for solutions that'll serve our customers better.
Oh, that's terrific. Great. Appreciate it. And last but not least, our current chairman, Kevin.
Thanks, Mike. I've mentioned IANA's been a nucleus for the stakeholders to develop platforms. I think as we move forward, that's going to be even more important. Both days, Dave Hensel touched on technology. As an industry, we have to remain flexible and adapt to change because it's coming. As Dave Manning just said, look at the last 20 years compared then to now. It's going to continue to go down that path. We're going to continue to get technology. IANA is going to be an instrumental part of some of those developments as we move forward, utilizing the networking capabilities, educating the stakeholders on changes, I think where IANA can really step up to the plate and help us is providing platforms for technologies so that we all aren't on 20 different technology platforms and engaging its members. I will go back to engaging. I think that's why as we move forward and things change, and we can adapt, we can make a difference and ultimately do what's best for the intermodal industry. Right now, IANA is the go-to industry to make that change happen.
I would agree with that. I mean, I would think that the intermodal industry, like you guys all said, is going to hopefully continue to grow, and it is. And, everyone's involvement, I mean, we get a tremendous amount of value out of being a member of IANA. As you guys mentioned, there were a lot of silos over the years, and you guys together have been able to break down those silos and get everyone working better together, which has really made the association so much better over the years and continues to improve every year. And, in the education, the collaboration, the networking, all of that really, with people working together will help us get there. I mean, we have a lot of industry threats and competitors out there that would like to take transportation away from the intermodal marketplace. And I think that what we're doing at IANA and how people can become involved in IANA really will help us continue to grow and be successful in this industry and continue to work together as good competitors. So really very impressed with everyone and all their answers. I think we hit on everything, and I will give it back to Hal or Jim for any further comments or additions that you would like us to do.